I never thought I would be in this position, sharing my story of betrayal and heartbreak with strangers on the internet. But here I am, trying to make sense of what went down. My name is Mark, and my wife Jessica and I had built a life together that I thought was solid. We were both involved in groundbreaking research on spinal cord injuries, pushing the boundaries of science in our small lab. I believed we were partners in every sense. At least, that's how I felt. Things started to shift around 6 months ago. I noticed subtle changes in Jessica's behavior that I initially brushed off. She was working late more often, her phone became an unapproachable fortress, and the intimacy we once shared began to dwindle. When I asked her about it, she would roll her eyes and tell me I was being paranoid. It's all about the research, Mark. You know how intense it gets. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to support her. But there were those fleeting moments when she'd glance at her phone, her expression shifting, almost like she was hiding something. The real turning point came when I found a text message on her phone while we were preparing for dinner. She had left it unattended, buzzing on the counter, and out of sheer curiosity I glanced at it. "Can't wait to see you tonight, I miss you." My heart dropped. I felt the air leave the room. I was frozen, staring at the words that seemed to mock me. I confronted her about it, my heart racing, my voice shaking. She laughed it off, claiming it was just a friend from work joking around. "You know how scientists are," she said with a dismissive wave of her hand. "You're too uptight, Mark, it's nothing." But I knew it was more than that. The betrayal seeped into my bones. The night dragged on and I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. I decided to take things a step further. I started tracking her movements, discreetly asking friends if they had seen her around. It felt invasive, but I was desperate for answers. The more I dug, the more I found. I learned that she had been spending time with a colleague named Ryan, someone I had only met in passing. Their late-night work sessions turned into more lunches, dinners, and eventually I stumbled upon photos of them together. When I confronted her again, things escalated. I had gathered evidence, texts, pictures. She couldn't laugh her way out of this one. I demanded the truth. The anger spilled out of me like a dam breaking. "You're cheating on me, Jess. How could you do this to us?" Her face shifted from feigned innocence to outright defiance. She smirked, crossing her arms, and stated, "You're always so busy with your research." I just needed someone who could give me attention. Her words were a blade cutting deep. The emotional turmoil I felt was an avalanche, burying me under grief and disbelief. How could she so easily blame me for her betrayal? It was like my world split in two. I was filled with rage, but also an overwhelming sadness. I had poured my heart into our marriage, and she had thrown it all away for what? A fleeting thrill. As the confrontation progressed, I felt a wave of despair wash over me. Jessica's excuses were nothing but hollow echoes. "You've changed, Mark. You used to be so passionate." It felt like a bizarre, twisted game where I was the only one who took it seriously. I ended up leaving the room, running my hands through my hair, trying to breathe through the suffocating anxiety. The confusion and anguish were unbearable. I had to figure out what to do next, how to move forward from this crushing betrayal. My emotions were a torrent of anger, sadness, and a sense of loss that felt insurmountable. I was at a crossroads, and I had to decide where my life would go from here. To be continued. The days that followed that fateful confrontation were excruciating. I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, oscillating between anger and a deep, hollow sadness. Jessica went about her days as if nothing had changed, which only fueled my fury. I tried to keep it together at work, focusing on our research, but every time I walked into the lab, I felt as if I was walking into a minefield. My colleagues noticed I was off, but I brushed off their concerns. They didn't know what was happening at home, and I didn't plan to share. I kept my head down, lost in thoughts of betrayal and confusion, and the reality of my situation started to sink in. I had dedicated my life to not only my work but to building a life with Jessica, and now it felt like everything was crumbling around me. I began to replay every moment from the last few months in my mind, trying to dissect the signs I had missed. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, how she used to smile at me differently. Each memory twisted the knife deeper into my heart, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being a fool. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead I felt paralyzed. It was a devastating mix of anger and self-pity as I realized that the woman I had trusted most had shattered my faith in love and partnership. One night, I came home late from the lab, hoping the solitude would give me some clarity. I walked through the door and saw Jessica sitting on the couch, engrossed in her phone. Her expression was blank, and I felt a surge of bitterness. How could she act like everything was normal? I wanted to confront her again, to unleash my pent-up frustration, but part of me hesitated. I wasn't ready for another round of her dismissiveness. That's when I noticed something on the coffee table, a small envelope. It was addressed to her in a handwriting I didn't recognize. My heart raced as I picked it up and Jessica shot me a warning glance, her eyes narrowing. "Mark, put that down," she snapped, but it was too late. I had already opened it. Inside was a love letter filled with words of admiration and longing for her from Ryan. I couldn't breathe. The world around me blurred as I read the letter, each word hitting me like a punch. "You deserve to be loved and cherished," it began. "You're the most incredible woman I've ever met." I felt my heart shatter into a million pieces. It was a clear proclamation of her betrayal, and it felt like the air was sucked out of the room. "Is this from him?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. Jessica's face drained of color, and she opened her mouth to protest, but I didn't let her. I couldn't listen to her lies anymore. "Stop, just stop. I don't want to hear your excuses. You've made your choice clear." She broke into tears, but they felt more like selfish sobs than genuine remorse. "Mark, please, I was lonely," she cried, her face twisted in distress. "You don't understand how hard it's been for me. The pressure at work, the lack of support." For a moment, I felt a flicker of empathy, but then it vanished, replaced by the rage that had been simmering inside me. "Lonely? You think that gives you the right to betray me, to humiliate me like this?" My voice echoed in the small space, the pain in my chest boiling over. I stormed out of the house, needing to escape the suffocating atmosphere. I walked aimlessly through the streets, the cool night air refreshing against my heated skin. The betrayal hung over me like a storm cloud, and I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore, trapped in a cycle of deceit and heartbreak. For the next few days, I went through a blurry routine. I was a ghost in my own life, going through the motions of work but unable to focus. I found myself thinking about what I had to do. I couldn't confront Jessica again. It only fueled her manipulation. I needed to find a way to regain some control in my life, something that would allow me to reclaim my dignity. After a long night of restless sleep, I decided that it was time to take action. I would confront Ryan. I needed to face the man who had crept into my life and taken my wife from me. With each passing hour, my resolve strengthened. I had to let this man know the pain he had caused, to show him that I wouldn't be a victim in this situation. The next morning, I scoured the internet for Ryan's contact information, my heart racing with anticipation and anger. I was no longer the man Jessica had manipulated. I was done being the victim. I was going to be proactive. I was ready to take control, and I would start with him, to be continued. My heart hammered in my chest as I crafted a message to Ryan. I wanted it to be direct, unambiguous. I wanted him to understand the gravity of his actions. After a few drafts, I settled on something simple yet powerful. "We need to talk. Meet me at the coffee shop on Main Street at 3 p.m. today." I sent the message, and a sense of empowerment washed over me, even amidst the storm of emotions swirling inside. I spent the next few hours anxiously pacing around my apartment, fighting the urge to back out. What if he didn't show? What if he did? What would I say? Questions spiraled in my mind like a tornado. I couldn't shake the feeling of impending conflict. But I reminded myself that I had to do this, not just for me, but for the dignity I was fighting to regain. At 2:55 p.m., I found myself outside the coffee shop, each minute that ticked by heightening my anxiety. I wanted to believe that confronting Ryan would bring me some semblance of closure, but deep down I was terrified of what might happen. I pushed through the door, and the smell of coffee filled the air, calming me slightly. As I scanned the room, I spotted him sitting at a corner table. He had that smug, self-satisfied look that made my blood boil. I approached him, willing myself to remain calm. "Ryan," I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. He looked Up surprised at first, but then smirked when he recognized me. "Mark, didn't expect to see you here," he said, his tone dripping with insincerity. "What's up?" I took a deep breath, suppressing the urge to lash out. "I'm not here for small talk, we need to discuss Jessica." His expression shifted slightly, but he maintained his cocky demeanor. "What's there to discuss? She's a grown woman, Mark. You should have been paying more attention." That was it. The anger I had been holding back surged to the surface like a tidal wave. "You think it's okay to swoop in and take advantage of my wife just because I was busy with work? You're a coward, Ryan. This is about more than just you being attention-starved or whatever excuse she gave you." He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, unfazed. "It's not my fault she was unhappy in her marriage. You clearly weren't giving her what she needed." The words stung. It felt like he was putting the blame right back on me. "So what? You think you can just step into my life and take what's mine without consequence?" I was practically shouting now, and the few patrons in the shop were starting to look over. "Consequences? Come on, man. Maybe you should have thought about that before you buried yourself in your work," he said nonchalantly, as if he was merely discussing the weather. I felt a mix of fury and disbelief. Who did he think he was? I needed to make him understand the impact he had on my life, on my marriage. "You have no idea what you've done. You've crushed my trust and destroyed our relationship. Do you even care about the damage you've caused?" For a moment his bravado faltered. I caught a glimpse of uncertainty in his eyes before he masked it with a sneer. "Look, buddy, it's not like you were keeping her happy anyway. Maybe it's time to accept that she wanted something more, something real." A flash of pain shot through me at his words. Jessica had indeed betrayed me, but now this stranger was trying to twist the knife deeper. I could feel my composure slipping away. "This isn't about you or her wanting something real. It's about respect, and you've shown none. You're not a hero in this story, Ryan. You're the villain." Ryan finally leaned forward, dropping his facade. "I never intended to hurt you, Mark, but you need to let her go. She deserves to be happy." In that moment, something inside me snapped. I realized that I was wasting my time talking to a man who clearly didn't hold any remorse for his actions. I stood up, my heart racing with adrenaline. "You know what? This conversation is done. I won't let you or Jessica dictate my worth. I'm not defined by her betrayal or by your arrogance." I walked away from the table, my pulse pounding in my ears. I felt fierce, empowered, and utterly exhausted all at once. I had confronted Ryan, and although it hadn't gone as I had hoped, it felt liberating to stand up for myself. Back at home, Jessica was waiting for me, her expression a mix of irritation and anxiety. "Where were you?" she demanded as soon as I stepped inside. I was worried sick. "I was talking to Ryan," I said flatly, watching her reaction closely. The color drained from her face. I needed him to know exactly how I feel about what's happening. She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "You don't get to turn this around on me. You made your choices, Jess. You need to confront the reality of what you've done. It's not just about you anymore, it's about us." Her eyes widened, and for the first time I saw a flicker of regret. "Mark, but I didn't want to hear another excuse. I had faced Ryan, and now I needed to face the feelings I had been trying to suppress. I need space. We both need to think about what we want. I can't do this right now." I turned away from her, feeling a mixture of heartbreak and relief. I was finally taking a stand, reclaiming my life, and the decisions I would make next would shape my future. I needed to heal, to figure out what a life without Jessica could look like, even if it terrified me. To be continued. The days that followed my confrontation with Ryan and Jessica were some of the most challenging of my life. I had made the decision to take space, but the silence was deafening. Jessica tried reaching out to me multiple times, but I kept my distance. I needed to think, to breathe, and to process everything that was happening. Each day felt like an eternity, and the weight of betrayal still loomed heavily over me. I threw myself into work, using the lab as an escape from the chaos of my heart. My colleagues noticed my newfound intensity and dedication. I was relentless in pursuing our research on spinal cord injuries, and it became a welcome distraction. I poured my energy into the experiments, determined to make a breakthrough, but even that couldn't completely fill the void that Jessica's betrayal had left. One evening, after a long day in the lab, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. As I strolled through the nearby park, I saw families laughing, couples holding hands, and friends enjoying each other's company. It struck me how different my life had become. The laughter of others felt like a cruel reminder of the happiness I had lost. I sat on a bench watching the sunset, and for the first time I allowed myself to feel the sting of sorrow. The memories flooded back, the way Jessica's eyes would light up when she talked about her work, the intimate moments we shared, and the plans we had made for our future. All of that felt like a distant dream now. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, and as much as I wanted to hate her, I still loved the woman I thought she was. After a few days of on-and-off silence between us, Jessica finally approached me again, this time with a newfound seriousness in her demeanor. "Mark, can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady but cautious. I had been dreading this moment but also knew it was necessary. We sat down in the living room, the tension palpable. Jessica began to speak, her tone more serious than before. "I've had time to think about everything that's happened. I want to explain myself." I didn't respond. I wanted to hear what she had to say, but I also knew that her words could be mere attempts at manipulation. She continued, "I got so wrapped up in my work and the pressure to succeed that I lost sight of what was important. Ryan, he was there when I felt alone. It was a mistake, one I deeply regret." A part of me wanted to believe her, to give her the benefit of the doubt, but the pain of her betrayal was still fresh. "Jessica, this isn't just about you feeling alone. You chose to cheat. You made a conscious decision to betray my trust. How can you expect me to just accept an apology when the damage is done?" She looked down, tears welling in her eyes. "I know, I can't take it back. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you, and I know I messed up. I want to fix this. I want us to work through it." I felt a flood of conflicting emotions. Love, anger, sadness. It was overwhelming. "Do you really mean that, or is this just what you think I want to hear?" "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I'll go to counseling. I'll be transparent with you. I want to rebuild our trust," she said, her voice breaking. I studied her, searching for any signs of insincerity. I wanted to believe her, but doubt still lingered. "Trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight, Jess. It takes time, and I don't even know if I can get there with you again." She nodded, understanding the gravity of my words. "I know, I'm willing to be patient. Just please give me a chance to show you how much you mean to me. I don't want to lose you." Part of me wanted to reach out and comfort her, but I held back. I needed to be strong. I had already allowed myself to be vulnerable once, and look where that had led me. "I need time to think," I said flatly. "I can't promise anything right now." As I walked away from that conversation, I felt a mixture of relief and confusion. I wanted to believe that we could work things out, but the scars from her betrayal were still raw. I began to realize that healing would require more than just words. It would demand actions, time, and a commitment from both of us to rebuild what had been lost. In the following weeks, Jessica followed through on her promise. She began attending counseling, and every day she made an effort to communicate openly about her feelings and the struggles she faced. I started to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, but every time I felt myself softening, I was reminded of the betrayal. I sought counseling on my own as well. It was intimidating at first, but talking to a professional helped me sort through my feelings. I learned that my anger was valid, but that I also needed to consider the possibility of forgiveness, not for Jessica, but for my own peace of mind. I began to reflect on what I truly wanted. Did I want to forgive? Did I want to try to rebuild our marriage? Or was it time to cut my losses and move on? The decision weighed heavily on me. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. I came home from the lab to find Jessica in the living room, surrounded by papers and books. She had been researching ways to reconnect, and there was a map of the city laid out with pins marking various places that held significance for us. "Mark, I want us to start fresh," she said, her eyes filled with hope. "I've planned a weekend getaway to some of our favorite spots. We can talk, reconnect, and just be together without the pressure of everything else." I was taken aback. It wasn't just a gesture, it was an invitation to heal. Part of me wanted to reject it, to remind her of the hurt, but another part craved the familiarity of our past connection. "Okay," I said hesitantly, my heart racing. "Let's give it a try." As we prepared for our weekend, I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this trip could be the start of something new, a chance to heal the wounds and explore whether our love could withstand the storm. To be continued. The weekend getaway arrived faster than I anticipated. Jessica and I packed our bags, the atmosphere charged with a mix of excitement and anxiety. I felt nervous, uncertain of what to expect, but I also held on to a flicker of hope. Perhaps this weekend could indeed be a turning point for us. We drove to a cozy cabin nestled in the woods, a place we had visited early in our relationship. The familiar surroundings brought back waves of nostalgia, but it was also a reminder of the happiness we once shared. As we settled in, I tried to focus on the positive, on what we could rebuild rather than what had been broken. That first night, we sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot cocoa as the sun dipped below the horizon. The stars began to twinkle in the clear sky, and for a brief moment, it felt like the weight of our problems had lifted. We shared stories about our early days together, laughing about silly things we had done, and it felt like a glimpse of the connection we used to have. "Do you remember that time we got lost on our hike?" Jessica asked, her eyes sparkling. "We ended up finding that hidden waterfall. I was so mad at you for not bringing a map, but it turned out to be one of the best days of my life." I smiled, remembering the day vividly. "Yeah, I remember. You were furious, but then we just sat there, soaking in the beauty of it all. It was perfect." As we reminisced, I felt the barriers between us starting to crumble, even if just a little. I could see changes in her. She was genuinely trying, making an effort to connect. It was refreshing, but it was also terrifying. I didn't want to let my guard down too quickly, yet I could feel my heart yearning for the intimacy we once shared. The next day, we decided to explore the nearby trails. Each step we took felt significant, a step toward healing. As we navigated through the lush greenery, I found myself opening up to her more than I had in months. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and the things we loved about each other. It was like rediscovering a long-lost friend. But just as I began to feel hopeful about us, the shadows of doubt crept back in. I couldn't shake the fear that this was just a temporary reprieve, a momentary distraction from the reality of our broken trust. That evening, Jessica surprised me again. She cooked dinner, a lavish meal filled with everything I loved. As we sat down to eat, she looked at me earnestly. "Mark, I know I've hurt you. I can't change the past, but I want you to know how committed I am to us. I'm willing to do the work, and I hope you are too." Her sincerity struck a chord, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something shift inside me. I wanted to believe her, to let myself hope for a better future. But I also needed to address the elephant in the room, the affair. "Jessica, I need to know if you're truly committed to fixing this. It's not just about fancy dinners or weekend getaways. It's about honesty and rebuilding trust," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I know. I promise I won't hide anything from you again. I'll share everything, even the embarrassing details. I just want to prove that I can be the partner you deserve," she replied, her eyes earnest. As I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of the woman I fell in love with, but the doubt still loomed large. "It's going to take time, Jess. You've shattered my trust, and it won't be easy to put it back together. I don't want to go through this again." She nodded, the understanding evident on her face. "I completely understand. I don't expect everything to be fixed overnight. I just want a chance to show you that I can be better. For us, I'm willing to go to therapy together to work on our communication. Please, let's make this work." That night, we talked long into the evening, laying bare our fears and hopes. The distance between us began to close, and I could feel the warmth of connection returning, albeit cautiously. As I drifted off to sleep that night, I felt a strange sense of peace enveloping me. However, the next morning, the tranquility shattered like glass. I woke up to find Jessica on her phone, a look of panic on her face. "Mark, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice trembling. "What's wrong?" I asked, sitting up abruptly, a knot tightening in my stomach. She took a deep breath, her eyes welling with tears. "It's Ryan. He texted me last night." My heart dropped, a rush of anger coursing through me. "What do you mean he texted you? After everything we've gone through, why would you even engage with him?" I didn't respond, I swear. "He said he saw my social media posts about this trip, and he wants to meet. He said he's sorry and wants to talk about. What happened? A mix of disbelief and anger surged within me. You can't be serious, Jess. After everything, you think it's a good idea to meet with him. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I know I didn't want to tell you, but I didn't want to hide it either. I thought it was better to be honest, she pleaded, her voice shaky. Honest? This is not honesty, this is inviting chaos back into our lives. I shouted, my frustration boiling over. I'm not going to meet him. I don't know how to handle this. I thought you should know, she said, her tears streaming down her cheeks. The moment felt surreal, as if everything we had built was teetering on the edge once again. I felt that same sense of betrayal creeping back, and I was torn between raging against the past and wanting to be supportive of her struggle. Jessica, we need to decide right now what we want. Do you want to fix this with me, or are you still holding onto something with him? I want us, I swear. She cried, her voice breaking. I never expected this to come back, and I don't know how to deal with it. As I looked at her, I realized that this moment could make or break us. I needed to set boundaries to make it clear that I couldn't endure the back and forth any longer. Then let's be done with it. No more talking to him. No more connections. If we're going to rebuild trust, you have to cut ties completely. She nodded, tears still falling. I promise I'll block him. I want to focus on us. I want to make this work. As she reached for my hand, I felt a mixture of relief and trepidation. This was a crucial moment in our journey, a fork in the road. I had to decide if I was willing to take the leap of faith with her, or if it was time to let go for good. The path ahead was uncertain, but I knew I had to make a choice that would ultimately define our future. To be continued. In the aftermath of Jessica's revelation about Ryan's text, I felt a storm brewing inside me, a tempest of emotions that threatened to drown everything we had begun to rebuild. The stakes had never been higher. I wanted to believe her, to trust that she was committed to fixing our marriage, but lingering doubts gnawed at the edges of my resolve. Jessica, I can't do this if there's even a hint of him in your life, I said firmly, searching her eyes for sincerity. You need to cut ties completely. I won't share you with anyone, not even a ghost from the past. I promise, Mark. I'll block him right now, she said, determination igniting in her voice. She pulled out her phone and with trembling fingers opened Ryan's contact. I watched as she hit the block button, a wave of relief washing over me. It was a small step, but it felt significant. The rest of the day was a blur of emotions. I could see the effort she was putting in, and it was heartening, but I still felt a lingering tension. We spent the day exploring the area around the cabin, visiting spots that once held cherished memories, but now felt different. Each shared laugh hung heavy with unspoken words, reminding me of the fracture that had split us apart. That evening we returned to the cabin, and as we cooked dinner together, there was an air of cautious optimism. Jessica was engaged, asking me about my day, reminiscing about our past, trying to draw me out of the shell I had been hiding in. I appreciated the effort, but I still felt a wall between us, a barrier built from hurt and mistrust. As we sat down to eat, she looked across the table at me, her expression earnest. Mark, I know I've hurt you. I'm trying to show you that I want to change, that I want to be the partner you deserve, she said softly. I nodded, my heart conflicted. I want to believe you, Jess, but it's going to take time for me to heal. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. I understand, she replied, her voice steady. I'm willing to be patient. I just want a chance to prove I'm worthy of your love again. After dinner, we decided to take a walk under the stars. The cool night air felt refreshing, and for a moment, the beauty of the lights above us dulled the sting of my heartbreak. We walked hand in hand, and I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. As we returned to the cabin, I paused, turning to face her. There's something I need to say. We're standing at a precipice right now, and I need you to know that I want to try. I want to see if we can make this work, but it's going to be a long road. Her eyes lit up with gratitude. I will do anything, Mark, just to have the chance to show you I can be better. In that moment, I realized that we were both willing to fight for what we had. It wouldn't be easy, but perhaps we could move forward together, learning and growing from this experience. Over the next few weeks, we returned to our everyday lives, but this time with a newfound commitment to transparency and communication. We attended couples therapy sessions, where we worked through our issues, confronting the pain but also exploring the love that still remained between us. There were difficult conversations, tears, anger, and moments of doubt, but there were also moments of laughter, warmth, and connection that reminded us why we fell in love in the first place. I saw Jessica's dedication, her willingness to change and grow, and it slowly began to chip away at the walls I had built around my heart. One night we sat on the couch watching an old movie and I realized how far we had come. It was in these small moments that I began to feel hope again. We talked about the future, about dreams we had shelved during the turmoil. "Do you think we can really get there?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Jessica smiled softly. "I believe we can. It's going to take time and effort, but I want to build our life back together." I took her hand, feeling a warmth spread through me. The journey ahead wouldn't be without challenges, but we were both committed to healing. I was learning to let go of the past and embrace the present. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that the pain of betrayal had opened my eyes to what truly mattered: authentic connection, honesty, and the strength to face challenges together. I had learned that healing transcended physical limitations, and that love, when nurtured with effort, could flourish even in the darkest of times. In the end, I came to understand that relationships require constant work, but the rewards of genuine connection made it worthwhile. I hope that anyone facing similar challenges would find the courage to face their pain and take the steps necessary to rebuild their lives, whether that included forgiveness or moving on. This was a journey of growth for both of us, and as I looked into Jessica's eyes, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. Together, we were choosing a new path, one built on trust, understanding, and love. And maybe, just maybe, we could finally find our way back to each other.